I man, when it comes to spirituality, you got to learn how to discern the differences between spiritual awakenings and true self-realization. Now, this is something a lot of people get mixed up, switched on together, and they don't really understand what's the real differences between the two, and they just use these terms to kind of just interchange between each other. But in reality, they're two totally different things, and I'm gonna break it down real quick like a brick for y'all. Now, regardless of where you are on your spiritual journey, man, you might have gone through a spiritual awakening. That is probably what got you on to this whole path, or what got you onto this channel. I don't know, man. You let me know in the comment section down below. But a spiritual awakening I've experienced before, for the people who have experienced it before, comment how it went down in the comment section down below. But to kind of put it in simple terms for the people to understand that haven't had a spiritual awakening yet, or maybe they don't realize they've had one in the background, it just wasn't so like profound and big and cinematic like as some people may make it out to seem to be. It is essentially the understanding, the point where you get to really put together the idea that you are not the mind and you are not the body. Let me say that again. It is the point in your life, an experience that happens that makes you realize that you are not the mind and you are not the body. So what does that really mean for the people out there who haven't had a spiritual awakening, who don't know what I'm even fucking talking about when I say that stuff? Well, you go throughout your whole life, your entire life, I don't know, till you're 20 years old, 25 years old, 30, 35. People have spiritual awakenings when they're like 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. But in reality, your vision of the world, your perspective on everything that we go through is confined into one box: me and this body and this mind. Most people are just a body. They don't even get to the point of the mind awakening. So that kind of happens as you mature and as you just get into the stages of your life where you understand that your mind controls the body. A lot of people just are on autopilot and they don't even know the mind is controlling their body. So society, everything else is kind of engineering their mind to just do whatever they want their body to do, not what you want your own body to do. So that's another topic for another day. But when you get into the spiritual awakening point, it's where you start to realize, like, damn, it's not just this, the physical, the material, the mental. It's not just that. There's something deeper to life, and I don't even know what it is. You get a taste of that during a spiritual awakening. You get a glimpse of what the next realms, the next planes of life are really like when that veil is finally pulled off, when that layer of reality is finally shredded to pieces. That's what a spiritual awakening really is at its core fundamentals. It can happen through psychedelics, it can happen through a traumatic experience, it can happen through deep meditation practices, it can happen through almost anything you can think of, bro. There's no specific way you gotta have a spiritual awakening, and you can't force these things to happen. If you're already on the spiritual path, even though you haven't had a spiritual awakening yet, all those practices you're doing is gonna lay down the foundation so when an awakening does happen, it will go a lot more smoothly versus someone like me, versus someone like some of you guys out there that just kind of like got thrown into the fucking deep end. Like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Yes, I've had psychedelic experiences before. I had my quote-unquote spiritual awakening experience, but it was nothing could have prepared me for that. Nothing could have prepared me for the type of gnosis, aka knowledge that's only found within, that I was gonna get myself into. Nothing can prepare you for it. You know what I mean? It's like getting into a fight or something like that. You can have all these fights with your friends, this and that, blah blah blah, go to the gym, do boxing and stuff like that, but until you go face to face with someone that's trying to hurt you, you're gonna be like, bro, this is completely different, and nothing could have trained me to the point where I'll be ready for this. You just got to be in the moment and fully be present of what you're doing while you're in that situation. Same thing for the spiritual awakening. While you're in it, you cannot fight it. You cannot go against it. or else just pull you deeper and deeper and deeper into the point where you're drowning. It's like when you go swimming, if you don't know how to swim well, like, the more you panic, the more you freak out, the more oxygen you're gonna lose, and the more in a state of anxiety you're gonna be in, and you're gonna be more prone to drown. But when you're on in these spiritual awakenings, the same thing happens. The more your mind and ego tries to battle against this journey your soul is trying to take you towards, the universe is trying to take your soul towards, better yet, you cannot fight it, man. You cannot fight it. You cannot just try to out ego it, out mind it, out body it, out physical it, out mental it. You cannot do that. And when you actually learn how to surrender and let go into the flow of the moment, the spiritual awakening is going to open up your perspective to what reality and what you've been missing out on this entire time. Because like I've said before on this channel, man, you can have all the material things in the world. You can have all the muscles, all the money, all the girls, all the nice cars, all the nice clothes, all the nice whatever it is, bro, whatever you want. You can have all those desires met, and you'll still feel like you're missing out on something. Because in reality, like I speak on this channel, the main motto of this brand, Fulati Fitness, is having a fit mind, a fit body, and a fit soul. You can have the mind and body top tier, elite levels. If the soul is lacking, bro, you have something missing out. Like, I'm recording this right now on a tripod. I can have those two legs of the tripod working perfectly, amazingly. It's so strong, like nothing can break it. But if that third leg is weak as hell, the whole balance of everything is going to be shifted off. So that's why it's important to work on the soul too. And you don't know what working on the soul is, or you don't even know what the fuck the soul is until you go through these spiritual awakening processes. And I'm telling you right now, like, as a person who is into some of these spiritual practices and meditation and stuff and that, psychedelics, before the spiritual awakening, you kind of think you know about it. But like I said, nothing can prepare you and nothing can compare to actually experiencing the soul one-on-one, face-to-face, finally. And my spiritual awakening was more intense and more deep because it was a full ego death experience. Not everyone's gonna have that, and maybe I'll talk about that later. If you guys want it, comment down below, let me hear if you want to hear about like what ego death really feels like. I've done a few videos on the main channel about what I learned from my ego death, about what my spiritual awakening journey was like, but I can break it down even better now because I got more mature, more understanding, more knowledge on my side to make it practical in a way that you guys can apply into your life and actually grasp what an ego death really is, how it happens, what happens afterwards. So let me know down below. So again, the spiritual awakening, nothing can really compare to all these things that you hear online. Oh yeah, you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're just a soul experiencing this human experience. Yeah, it sounds great, it sounds fantastic. And if you've picked up along the way watching this channel, watching the main channel, I'm a very straightforward guy. A lot of things can sound nice. I'm not really into this whole motivation stuff. Oh, rah rah, it sounds good, man. Like, yeah, man, I'm just a soul. Like, I want to experience things. The only way I learn is if I experience. I can read all these books, listen to stuff like that, reading other people's experiences. Yeah, it's great. That could prepare me for my own experience, but the only way I'm going to really fucking learn is experiencing it one-on-one. So when you have that experience, the spiritual awakening experience, it's gonna click finally. Like, oh, I know what that means now. Afterwards, you come out of that spiritual awakening experience of what it means to be the soul, experiencing the body, experiencing the mind, and connected to everything. That's what a spiritual awakening is really going to show you, that you're connected to everything. This is just a costume for the time being, an avatar for the time being, your character for the time being. But when you peel back all these layers of the physical, the mental, the ego, the psyche, all these things, it's going to come down to the same source of these trees, of these animals, of this other person, of the entire galaxy. That's what it's going to bring you down to. And you might get to that point, like I said, if you have an ego death experience. The spiritual awakening does not always come with an ego death, but you're gonna understand a little bit of it with the spiritual awakening, but the ego death is gonna make you really feel it. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. The ego death is gonna make you, it's the next layer after the spiritual awakening. And then after that, what we're gonna get into in a little bit is true self-realization, which I'm on the path. Hopefully you guys are on the path. Self-mastery, self-realization go hand in hand, like peanut butter and jelly, like salt and pepper, like Pilates and fitness. Come on, man. So the spiritual awakening will just open up your minds. It's like taking glasses off your eyes for once in your life. Like, you had these blinders on that you could only see literally directly out in front of you. You couldn't get a whole peripheral view, panoramic view of reality. A 360-degree view is going to be through self-realization. And it's raining a little bit, but I'm gonna stay out here in the field, in the flesh, keep you dropping you out at games so you guys can make these gains. You dig what I'm saying? Now, after your spiritual awakening process, you're gonna probably go through a state of like, wow, like, I gotta tell everybody about this. I gotta make videos about this. I gotta start a YouTube channel. I gotta write a book. You're gonna get so excited to tell everyone about this stuff. But in reality, you're just starting off at the surface level. You finally opened the door. You finally got a little crack of the door open. You haven't fully opened the door yet, and you haven't even fully stepped into the next thing that the door is holding you back from. You just cracked it open a little bit. You saw a little opening of like, damn, I'm not just a mind. I'm not just a body. There's something more in there. And you're going to be eager, depending on the type of person you are, to go search more, to go look for more, to go seek that gnosis, to seek inward. You get some of these tools from people like some of the greatest sages, saints, and stuff like that, practices, maybe videos like this, my channel. You get some tools along the way to help you along that process, but you're going to look inward, because you know the things that you experienced on spiritual awakening wasn't outwards, it was inwards. You shifted your inward perspective, which eventually shifted your outward perspective. It starts from the inwards, and then it eventually extends outwards. That's how this whole game works. And when you understand that, like I said, you're going to be seeking more. You're going to be getting into some deeper books, some deeper topics. Maybe, I don't know, man, you go on retreats. Maybe you go to see spiritual seminars. I don't know, man, whatever it is that's enticing you to just go seek further and further, seek for more truth, seek for more clarity, seek for more guidance, the inner guru that resides within. You're going to go towards that. And your perspective on life is going to be completely different. You're not going to be so wound up in your own mind. You're not going to be wound up in your own body. You're not going to be so selfish. You're not going to be so one-track focused. You're going to be looking at things way more broadly. You're going to be looking at people more empathetically. You're going to be tapping in more your feminine nature that's been repressed, because obviously this is channels more for guys out there. And if you combine it with other things I talk about in this practice, your semen retention, your breath work, meditations, you're working out, you're focusing on your purpose, all these things are going to be more like, how do I explain it, more clear to you what to do in life, because you're not just listening to your mind and body, which is only can get you a certain level of understanding. You're going to be having an intuitive knowledge that's kind of like helping you go from step to step. Like, it's like, you ever seen those places where it's all dark? I don't know, maybe like an arcade or carnival, and you step on a tile and it lights up. The next tile is light up. You step on that, the next tile lights up. Step on that. You just go through life like that now. You're not so like, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do this, gotta do that. Yes, you're gonna still have that part to you because you're a guy, but you're gonna be more intuitive and listening to your own inner nature. That's gonna give you better worldview of what you should do, not just XYZ, you're going to be looking at ABC, you're going to be looking at 1, 2, 3, you're going to be looking at a whole wide variety of different outcomes and options, and just, you're going to be almost like you're a kid again. Like I've talked about this before on this channel, how psychedelics do that, but a spiritual awakening, regardless if it was from psychedelics or not, will tap you back into that state, because it's like scrubbing your mind clean of all the perceptions and all the stereotypes and all the societal conditionings that you've had on throughout your entire life. It's like getting a clean slate for once and all. Now, but you're more mature. Unlike when you're a kid, you're not mature enough to make your own decisions. So your parents, your teachers, society tells you what to do. So those things get wired into your brain of what you should do. You didn't have the choice to make those decisions. Other people were doing it for you. Now you're a kid again, but you're mature enough to make your own decisions. So now you start paving out your own path, and you might go completely 180 of what you were doing before. Maybe you're in school, you drop out now after a spiritual awakening. Maybe you're in a 9 to 5, you quit your job to go pursue entrepreneurship after spiritual awakening. A lot of different things will shift in your life after a spiritual awakening. But let's say time passes on, things are going well, you're struggling with a lot of back and forth with your ego, with your mind, with your body, of like what reality really is. Maybe you kind of go distance yourself from certain people. Maybe you distance yourself from certain things. Maybe you don't have a certain want to do certain things. Like all your whole personality is going to get a shift, but it's for the better. It's for the better of your mind, body, and soul, not just your mind and body now. So maybe those mind and body, you're going to take a little step back. Maybe you're not so focused on grind. You're going to be looking at exploring different avenues of life. You're going to be exploring different beliefs, faiths, maybe just what you want to do in life, different purposes in life, different aspects to what makes up this human experience. You're going to be looking at all these different types of things, and yes, it's for the better, even though it might be hard at first. In the beginning, it's going to be like, oh man, I'm so excited about to tell everyone. That is going to fade out. Then you're going to be like questioning yourself, because that spiritual awakening honeymoon phase has a glow to it, has an afterglow effect to it. But once that fades, you're kind of in the middle of like the spiritual awakening side of you and the old side of you, and you're going to go through a flatline process, kind of like semen retention. If you do both together, they'll probably come together at the same time, which is funny enough that happened to me. Maybe it happened to you. Comment down below. So you get to that point, and now, like I said, you're searching for more, you're seeking for more, you're battling against the ego. Then you start on your path to self-mastery, which eventually leads you to self-realization. This is what my channel, that I see it shifting towards, not just self-improvement. In the beginning, maybe you thought myself was just self-improvement, but no, I'm past levels of self-improvement. Yes, you got the basic foundations of it, but once you get the foundations of it, just keep it under maintenance. You don't have to, like, how cold can your showers get? How much can you really work out? How much can you really read this how to win friends and influence people? Like shit like that, bro. Then you look on to the next layers, the next pillars to build up the pinnacle of your persona, of your purpose, of your just beingness. What is the next layers? What is the next steps on that pyramid scale to get you to the top, the pinnacle, the peak? What is these things? It's knowledge of self-mastery, knowledge of self-freedom, which will eventually come together to form self-realization. Now let's talk about self-realization. Now, what is that? When you hear about enlightenment, that is self-realization. It's not, oh, you become God. You realize the divinity or godhood within you. That's what it is. There's a lot of people that think these sayings, these self-realization sayings, are dangerous because they might make you think that you're God. No, there's a capital G God and there's a lowercase g God. We are lowercase g gods and there's only one capital letter, capital G, God. If that makes sense. That capital G God, what I like to compare it to, is an organism. We are all the cells that make up that organism. Everything, the trees, the plants, the animals, the humans, all these things are different cells. It's individualized from the one organism, but when you put it all together, that's God. God is everything. God is a force, more of a force than a being. And I'm going to break this down more. I'm going to break down a lot of different types of topics like self-realization, spiritual awakenings, all these types of things on the Patreon. So make sure that you, if you're interested in joining, don't comment down below, relax. You go to the comment section down below, DM me on Instagram or on the Discord server, just say Patreon, and we can talk about how you can reserve your spot before anybody else can get in, before it goes public, because I'm only talking about this on this channel right now or on the Discord server. Only you two people on those types of platforms, on this channel or on the Discord server, will hear about the RSVPing first. So make sure you tap in and ensure your spot, because trust me, man, I'm about to go ham. And I do plan to make a full main channel video about self-realization, the 4 steps towards it, later on down the line, but a full lecture, way longer format, more raw, more uncut, more unfiltered, will be on the Patreon. So make sure you tap in, let me know, let's get this money. So what I'm self-realization, what that really is bringing you towards, what's that gonna push you towards, is the stuff that you experience on your spiritual awakening. It's gonna make that more of your day-to-day beingness. Like, a spiritual awakening is very intense, short-term, and it's temporary. You're not gonna be in that state all the time when you first have that experience. But self-realization is going back and doing practical steps, practical teachings of not really learning, but unlearning, learning how to unlearn those blockages that are going to form back again once the ego is outside of that spiritual awakening experience. It's gonna form back again, create a covering. Self-realization is doing those practices to uncover it in a more prolonged experience, but it's gonna make it much more sustainable, if that makes sense. You're not going to just have one crazy spiritual awakening and then think that you're enlightened. No, it's just it gives you a taste. But you got to go back and do practices if you want to taste that again. Not only taste it, but make that a part of your daily fucking meal plan. That state of pure beingness, pure oneness. If you want to just taste it once, yes, a spiritual awakening will give you that. But if you want to have that as your daily breakfast, or even better yet, like the air you breathe throughout your day, you want to make it that constant of just being in that present moment, of just being in that oneness state, then self-realization is the ultimate form of it. That is the end goal of self-realization. Spiritual awakening just gets you your foot in the door. Self-mastery will get you down those practices to eventually get you to that state of self-realization where you've completely opened the door and you've walked into the next room, walked into the next realm, walked into the next plane of existence where that is your default mode of being. You are fully self-realized. You are enlightened. You can't go back. The door is closed. Actually, you can go back, because the person who's self-realized sees that there's no separation between the two. That's the whole point of self-realization. You transcend duality. You transcend, I was spiritually awakened versus I'm just being. Because you've unlearned those things. You're already self-realized, but there's so many things that's covering you from actually understanding it and actually connecting to it, to the point where you get to these stages of enlightenment. Like, there's all these stages that talk about, I'm not going to teach you things to you new things that you have to learn. I'm rather gonna teach you things to unlearn all these new things and go back to your old ways. Your old ways before all these societal conditionings, all these identifications with the ego, with the mind, with the body, with the things around you, your name, your ethnicity, your race, all that stuff, man. Like, we're gonna that is what true self-realization knowledge, true self-mastery is gonna help you do. Unlearn those things. Like I told you, you're kind of scrubbing things, scrubbing your mind, scrubbing your ego, scrubbing your whole perspective on life through spiritual awakening. The self-realization path is taking that clear slate that was lower base metals like lead and turning it into gold. It's true self-realization. That is the most golden, valuable thing that you can have on this plane of existence. Why? Because everything on this plane of existence is temporary. It's impermanent. The only thing that's really going to last and is eternal is knowledge of self, is not even your soul. Yes, the soul is part of the self, but once you even transcend the soul to the all, to understanding that everything is your soul and we're all just little pieces of it, like I said before, how we're all little different cells of that Godhead, that is priceless, man. Priceless information that you cannot really replicate. Yes, you need other types of things while you still are on this plane of existence. Money, you need food, you need shelter, you need water, you need those things to operate. But use these type of things, like I said before in this channel, how to balance the material and physical worlds, the material and spiritual worlds. Go check that video out right now after this. You gotta have these types of things that are gonna work together. Spiritual knowledge and self-realization is gonna help you flow through this physical plane of existence of life way more effortlessly. You're not gonna be grasping at things. You're not gonna be so quick to identify yourself with things. You're gonna have a more detached perspective, which most people might think, oh man, how's that gonna help my business, or how's that gonna help me get girls, or how's that gonna help me build muscle in the gym. It's gonna help you to the point where you understand that you're observing yourself through these things. You're not being so identified with, oh man, I lost X amount of money, or oh man, I lost this fight, oh man, I lost my girlfriend. You're not gonna be thinking about these things. You're gonna be like, I'm watching this character that I'm identifying with for the time being go through these experiences. And when you have a detached point of view, like I said, you have a 360 perspective. You're not so tunnel focused where you can't see to the side of you, behind you, your blind spots. You can't see those things when you're always in that mode of operation of where you limit your beingness to just the mind and body. It's kind of disrespectful to yourself to only think that you're those type of things. Like, you have an eternal beingness to you, which you're not gonna actually illuminate to the point where it's your default mode of state of being. Even after spiritual awakening, you're not going to have that default state of being unless you go through the path of self-mastery and eventually lead yourself to true self-realization. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not self-realized. I'm not enlightened. I'm learning from these enlightened masters and stuff like that. And maybe I'm a step ahead of you on this practice. There's no real linear type of way we can really calculate these things. Like, even me just saying like I'm not at that path yet, like I said before in this video, I'm already at that path. I'm already self-realized. I'm already enlightened. But there's so many things covering it up that I got to take it out of the way. So yes, I'm on that path of kind of like bringing 2 points to meet each other. I'm already self-realized. I'm already enlightened. You are too. Everybody is. But you got to do all the dirty work to get yourself to that point where it connects. To the point where two links on your chain connect. Right now, there's a bunch of bullshit in between. And that bullshit you gotta actually manually do certain things to get it out of the way. And manually doing certain things might sound like, oh, you gotta put in a shit ton of work, you gotta grind this and that. No, true self-realization, like I said, you are unlearning things, you're letting things go. And it might be a grind, quote unquote grind, to let things go because you've been so accustomed to it, but that's what it is. You're not chasing after anything, you're not gaining anything like you are when it comes to building muscle or building up your business. You're chasing things, you're trying to gain things, you're in a state of lack, and you're grabbing things to eventually build yourself up. Right now, when it comes to the soul, self-realization, you are not trying to chase or gain anything, but rather pull things away from you. You don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need this. And it doesn't mean you're going to become a renunciate and just go live in a cave. It's just giving up the things that are no longer necessary for you to actually realize and actualize this knowledge. And that's more psychological and more mental, not really materialized things. Yes, you can have material things in the world and still be a self-realized master. Of course, you can. Doesn't mean you gotta throw that shit all away, but you're not attaching yourself to those things. You're not attaching yourself to the type of person that got to those things. You're just enjoying life for the time being. If it goes away, it goes away. It does not affect your eternal presence and eternal being. That's what true self-realization is. You're not the mind, you are not the body, you are not even this identification of this is my soul. You are the self. You're not, I am this, I am this soul, this body, this identification, this ego. You're not none of this. You will become that. There is no I anymore. It becomes universal. That's why it's called the universe. One. Everything is one collective. You become that point. And you're just going to understand that side of you, that self-realized side of you, that observer who's observing the observer. That makes sense. Spiritual awakening, you'll understand that you're the observer. You're observing the mind, you're observing the body. But you identify that, I identify that with the soul. A lot of people will think that the soul is the observer. Yes, but what is the observer of the soul? The self, the true self. A lot of different practices will give it different names. Brahman, the collective consciousness, Christ consciousness, the Tao, all these types of things is that God force, that Godhead, that God realization, identifying the Godhood that you are experiencing right now in this character for the time being. That's what true self-realization is. So, before we wrap this thing up, again, like I said, I'm going to make a whole video on the main channel about the steps of self-realization, because this is coming off the dome ski. I'm just giving you all the difference between spiritual awakening and self-realization. I'm going to go down the steps of what I've learned or what other people have talked about, of how people eventually graduate to that level of self-realization through, like I said, unlearning, becoming the observer of the observer, knowing thyself. That is what I plan to make it with that video, so make sure you stay tuned for that on the main. But again, full lecture, full long form lecture of that video, the main channel video, gonna take it down and just break it down even longer to even more actionable steps, even more practical steps on the Patreon. If you do want to reserve your spot, like I said, DM me on Instagram, DM me on Discord. Both links are going to be included into the pinned comment in this video. But before I keep talking about that, I'm going to say that your spiritual awakening experience, if you've had one, I want to make it clear that you are just at ground zero. You finished one game, but now you've opened up another game. It's so wild, because my spiritual awakening was probably 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And the more you go down that path, because your life is gonna have a fork in between. It's like taking the red pill in the Matrix, but there's no other way you can go back. Like you got forced to take the red pill. Like fucking someone just shoved it down your throat. Pause. No Diddy. Like pause. Shoved it down your throat, and you just had to go with it, bro. There was no like, oh wait, man, I don't want to do this, bro. Like blah blah blah. Like even if it wasn't such an intense experience at first, you got really no way. Like the road of your life had a fork in between the two, but right after that spiritual awakening, the other fork, damn, pretty loud. The other fork, the other path just dropped, bro. Dropped. This is the only path you can go, bro. So if you're having a spiritual awakening or you just got done with one and your life just seems like completely flipped upside down, bro, welcome to stage 1, motherfucker. Like I've had the 6 stages of semen retention on my main channel. This is stage 1 towards self-realization. Maybe I should make the main channel video about self-realization. The 4 stages, the 4 steps, the 6 steps, the 6 stages of self-realization. I don't know. Maybe. You just gotta stay tuned for when that does drop. But like I said, there is no going back. There's only one path, and you're gonna look at your old life like you weren't even alive. Like that's the best way I can explain it. You were literally on. If you ever played 2K or like FIFA or stuff like that, and you did like My Career and you just simulate games and just the games just happen by themselves. Like you're not playing the game. Like your team wins, your team loses. Like you just simulate the entire season until the playoffs or until the World Cup or until the Premier League finals, whatever the hell. You just simulate the entire game. Then you jump back into it and you're like, oh shit, like I didn't, like my life went on, but I wasn't living. I wasn't like there. I wasn't actually at the controller, at the keyboard, at the helm, at the state of consciousness where I was actually there. Like you were just sleepwalking, you were a zombie, even though you were going out throughout your life, bro. Like that's what it feels like, man, after a spiritual awakening. Then your life really starts. There's this quote that says that each person has 2 lives. One, when they're born, and the second one is once they realize that they will die or they're not here permanently. I'm just paraphrasing that because it fits better to what we're saying. The spiritual awakening is realizing that this body, this mind is not permanent. There's something is permanent though, that's a soul. And how do I tap into the soul more? Well, you gotta differentiate the soul. It's not the end goal. It's observing the soul as another piece to the puzzle, but the self is when you transcend all of that, when you're not attached to any of it and you're just experiencing life, when you're just in a state of pure oneness. That's the best way I can explain it. That is the ultimate goal of the soul, man. Like I've talked about it before on this channel. You can go check that video out. It's to be liberated from the mind, the body, even the identification with the soul. Because like I said, you, from the spiritual awakening, you detach from the mind and body, but then you kind of attach to the soul. That's why spiritual awakening is just part 1. You can't do just because, oh, I'm just a soul. You are not, there's no I. Like there's no I, motherfucker. Self-realization will get you to that point where there's no I. I'm not at that point. Most of you guys aren't at that point. We are at that point, but we gotta unlearn these things that's gonna help us get to that point once again, to actually realize it. That's why it's called self-realization. It's not self-treasure hunting. You're not going to find it. It's realizing it because it was always there in the beginning. But like I said, we're on this path. You're on this path. I'm on this path. Hopefully this channel is helping you on this path. Hopefully the main channel is helping you on this path. Hopefully if you join the Patreon helps you on this path. All that stuff, man. Like it's truly it's something that even as I talk throughout this video, maybe when I go watch it back again, it's something you can't put into words. You can't put it down to pen and paper. You can't put it down even to pictures or visual, or like something you just got to go through and feel. Feeling is a secret. Shout out to Neville Goddard. feeling is a secret when it comes to self-realization. So with that said, man, it's Biddy Boy out here in the field, in the flesh, dropping y'all that game so you guys can make these gains. And I'm out of here. Peace.